We launched an 8-figure beauty brand on Amazon from zero. In the first month, we did 40k net profit. In the second month, we did 70k net profit. And in the third month, we reached 92k net profit. This is take-home profit for the brand after all fees, costs, ad spend, and even shipping costs. But here's what nobody will tell you. What was done behind the scenes and what problems you will face. So for that, we're going over a case study where we launched a brand on Amazon with a 50% margin and scaled it to 92k profit in month 3. This is a screenshot from Sellerboard, and we will have more of that later on. The margin is 50% after everything. We had 2.2% returns. The TACOS was 26%. A short disclaimer for everybody. If your brand is not doing at least 5 million a year, you should rather focus on growing your working channels like Meta instead of opening a new one. If you're already on Amazon though, and want to grow this, we have other videos where you can copy the playbooks. If you don't want to do it yourself, just click below, book a call with us, and we will do it for you. What you should ask yourself is like, why do I want to launch on Amazon and why now? Why not to focus on Meta and scale there? In this case, a brand in the beauty niche came to us and they had a lot of copycats on Amazon. Basically, these are Chinese people and companies who are copying you the brand name and posting it one-to-one on Amazon. And if it's not your brand name, they copy your images, your main image and all that. And to be frankly honest, it just makes sense to make this if you want to make fast money. You see a brand scaling on Meta, and it's not on Amazon, so people start selling a fake product. Sometimes they just resell it from your funnels. And customers don't really see the difference as long as the product looks very similar. That's why it's so important to protect your brand on Amazon. This specific brand already had 1.5 million a month in revenue in their store. And Amazon just made sense because people were already searching the brand name. The generic market is huge, I checked it, and people just sold fake products where they got bad reviews on their own product. So basically when people go and see your Meta ad, they go to Amazon and see just very bad reviews. It has impact on your store. The thing is, most brands just get it wrong. They launch on Amazon, forget it, never touch it again, and then they wonder why the performance drops when their reviews are bad, when some people hijack your buy box and so on. Hijacking happens when people buy it on your funnel, or sometimes not on your funnel, but they just apply to sell your product. And then your performance gets worse in the ads, your revenue drops, and all that. To protect yourself from this, we have a video on this on the transparency codes. The decision on this is very easy. To launch on Amazon, there are 3 metrics that have to be true. A lot of branded search demand, many content feeds, so many resellers, and the generic market itself has to be huge as well. So when you see this situation, Amazon will become a money-making machine. And this is actually what happened because all of these metrics were true in this case. So let me go over it, how we help, what we did before we go over month, because we have a huge of insights in each month, which will help you a little bit more. Since this brand had no clue about Amazon, we took care of everything from the compliance side, which was a pain in the ass, to be honest, which I will talk in a second. We take care of the listing images to ensure the conversion rate is on point, the keyword research, the ad structure, the inventory management, the troubleshooting, basically everything. It's a hands-off channel for them, except the customer support, which they just plugged into Amazon, which was very easy. This is a very solid setup for Amazon. It's basically hands-off, as I already said. The problems we run into, and there were actually a lot, because in the beauty niche, which is sometimes related to a health niche, you get FDA claims. So Amazon flagged our main keyword as a health claim. This is a huge thing. So we had to remove it. It was a pain in the ass, even if all our competitors are using it as well. But you can't really say like, hey, my competitor is using it, I want to use it as well. This doesn't work. So I believe that each brand owner should know the niche better than I do. I know Amazon in and out. However, if there are FDA claims that we're not allowed to say, I do my research, but I also asked the brand about specific claims. They said it's all good because we're saying it on our website. Turns out it wasn't. It was an FDA claim, and this blocked our process for roughly 2 months until we got it fixed by creating a new listing with all these words removed. Ranking for the main keyword got almost impossible. We are on month 3 and seeing slowly results. It was impossible because the main keywords was one of the FDA claims, and if you would write it from the beginning slightly differently, it would create no problems. But sadly, we didn't know this, so it created a lot of problems. Also, Amazon didn't show the images we uploaded. Each variation had different images. Solution annoy Amazon, annoy the support, test new image orders until it got approved, and we could have everything the same way in the front end. And one of the biggest problems was that the branded traffic decreased over time, but more to that in a second. And all these problems we run into that you have to troubleshoot, find solution for, whether adding the main keyword in the backend, running an A/B test, or being a little bit creative, trying to rewrite it so it becomes actually less relevant. And all these problems you run into, you have to troubleshoot. You have to find creative solutions for it, whether adding the keyword in the backend, running an A/B test, or being a little bit creative, like trying to rewrite the whole keyword so it becomes actually relevant for Amazon and at the same time compliant. As already said, you can never say, oh, why can't I do this? My competitors are using this. First of all, Amazon will not take them down. And second of all, Amazon doesn't care. Let's look at the phases. In this case, we look at month 0. We call it month 0 because we launched on the 25th of January and it wasn't a full month. So very easy, month 0 launch phase. It was a little bit unexpected because we had the compliance problems and Amazon basically destroyed 3,000 units. This was on our listing. They weren't shipped back. And that's why we added them as indirect costs, which created a negative net profit in the first month. As you can see, we did in the first month roughly 10,450 in gross profit. And after all the destroyment fees and product costs, we had minus 2,244, which is really important to look at. We look here at the number 1 keyword. And in this case, this is Amazon first party data. This is the search volume for the important keywords in January 2026. And this first one is the brand keyword, the main keyword. This is another one about just the brand. This is brand plus product. And we will start tracking it month over month because you will see how it actually impacts our performance because it decreased and we can show it with data. However, if this with the destroyment wouldn't happen, we would have a very good first month with 10K profits within 10 days. As already mentioned, we prepared the listing so it can succeed within the ranges that are possible with FDA claims. We built a very solid structure for scaling the ads. We had 4 order campaigns, 1 branded phrase campaign, which basically gets everything that you need, 5 branded non-branded discovery campaigns, which are phrases and sometimes broad, 7 exact matches campaigns for ranking purposes and controls. So you put basically 1 keyword into 1 ad group, into 1 campaign, and 2 long tails, exact campaigns for targeting relevant long tails. We put more. About the complete structure about ads, I have another video on the channel, so please just watch it. So let's talk about how month 1 happened. It created 40K in net profit, which roughly 50K in gross profit. The difference here is because we had shipping costs and specific tool costs for Amazon. If you don't add them, you don't really know your real net profit and you maybe just look at your sales. If you add your shipping costs into your COGS, which I personally wouldn't recommend because your COGS pretty much stay the same and shipping changes all the time. So that's why we recommend doing then indirect costs as we did. Just for a short understanding and expectation settings, if you're doing roughly 50K a day on Shopify on Meta, then in the first full month on Amazon, you can make roughly 50K profit. This is a realistic ratio in my opinion and also from my experience. Yes, the volume is not as big on the Meta, but since you don't do push marketing, which is here the most important part and difference, you have very high margins. And in the first month, you're not ranked properly. You still have so many things to do. The algorithm maybe doesn't know what you are or what are you selling. It doesn't know how relevant you are, especially when there are already brands for years on Amazon. The second month was therefore all for scaling slightly and adding more trust. We added the following things. A very good brand store, sponsored brands video on winning keywords, really important. Don't launch sponsored brands videos very broad. You want to have specific wording, specific videos for your winning keywords with a specific angle. It can be very easy copied, right? You can even make the same video, just change the title, just change some keywords inside it. You don't have to restructure it completely if you want to test a lot. And also sponsored brand banners to get more impressions. Really important, sponsored brands got almost auto campaigns. You don't have really the banner function anymore, which makes it way, way easier, but there were so nice banners to catch attention. Same here, very specific for keywords. So based on all that, you see already here that our main keyword is actually down 3,000 searches a month in February. This other one is also down 3,000. So even though we scaled here in month 2, and yes, like month 1, and yes, you could now do like the calculation. Oh yeah, they had more time, they should scale more, but we had just less search volume on the branded one. And this is really important to understand because we had less traffic, like almost 6,000 searches on the 2 most important ones. And these are all still relevant, right? So that's why you push so hard in the generic market. Of course, neither as a person who runs Amazon nor as a brand do you want to see your branded search volume drops on Amazon. This can have several root causes, whether just the blade is smaller Or maybe your funnel just got better, because if your funnel get better and you have just more conversions on your funnel, less people check you on Amazon. Or even the weather could be different. Well, people just don't go to Amazon, right? There could be so many different external factors. But when you see this, you can just expect typically less revenue. And some brands of us like really push hard on Meta, but there's just no bleed. So it could be seasonal, it could be whatever you want to look. There are so many different factors to look into this. What is important that you see the branded search just as a booster on Amazon and not as your whole funnel. It should help you rank organically in the generic market, but it's not where your money is coming from. Also, just betting on the bleed is a very stupid long-term decision, because what happens if your Meta account gets destroyed? What happened if the bleed just gets smaller because your funnel gets better? What if Meta suddenly decides, hey, I don't like your brand anymore? Right? There are so many different things, and then suddenly your whole revenue drops on Amazon. That's why ranking on non-branded terms is so important on Amazon, and it's not just to launch my brand. And this brings us into month 2, 70K net profit. The third month was the best when looking at the growth rate, right? We had a 180% growth rate with a huge net profit, and all this while our branded traffic decreased. When you look closely at the profit after all fees, it's lower by roughly 40K. We shipped a lot of inventory to Amazon. We had also some expenses for extra tools this month. Shipping to Amazon on time is always a pain, and that's why we decided to ship more units to AWD. If you don't know what AWD is, it's Amazon Warehouse and Distribution Service. It's a perfect solution for everybody who wants to send a lot of units to Amazon, don't want to pay high FBA storage fees, and never want to run out of stock. Yes, there are some extra inbound fees and whatever, but overall it's cheaper when you send a lot of stock. If you're replenishing all the time on time, then don't worry about this. But if you don't want to play around with 3PLs, or if you just don't want to pay high FBA storage fees and just want to send like once for 3-4 months enough storage, like enough stock, then this is the perfect thing to do. It's only available in the US, and if you're selling in other countries, this may not be applicable. So by starting there, we could ensure we never run out of stock as long as we have stock inside AWD. Also, side fact, if you have stock in AWD and there's something coming up as Prime Days, your stock will be prioritized on refilling and having enough FBA storage instead of sending from a 3PL. And as already said, one thing that we faced is that our branded search volume went down and down and down again. So this is the same keyword. Last month had 6,000 searches. This is already a different, completely non-relevant keyword. So this is what we're looking, what was before number 1. It says 4,500. Since January, we have 4,500 searches a month less on the main branded keyword. When we look long-term, or like a little bit broader, this is also affect on all the other branded keywords. Why? Because, so when we look at branded keywords, you have your one branded keyword and then several words added to the end. For example, you could have Amazon. This is your branded keyword. And then you have Amazon Logistics, Amazon Seller Central, Amazon Prime Video, and so on. And all these has effect on the other ones. Like if Amazon drops, the other drops as well. And that's one of the most important that you have to realize when looking at these numbers. We had less correlation in the growth connected to the branded search volume. All our growth is coming from non-branded sales. That's also when your advertising cost can go higher, when your TAC cost goes higher. Because this data that you see here is from search for your performance report on Amazon. So while we grew here by 120% almost, our branded search really dropped again. And this here is first party data. So it's not guesswork. It's not using like helium-10. Yes, helium-10 is great to see like correlations, but this is way more accurate. You can get also weekly data, but like for me, monthly for this overview is way better. This is very accurate. So to achieve this, we started with Creators Connection, even though we didn't scale this as much this month. We implemented the main keyword inside the listing after we got enough saves, so we could ensure that we will not be taken down. Yes, we implemented it only here in the backend, and before it was not implemented at all, because we wanted to be like 100% sure. We created also an A/B test for the main image, which actually didn't work out, even though it looks better. People just don't like it, deal with it, and then just create a new test. And we really brought stability into the performance, especially at the end of the month. So let's look about month 3. It was the last month. We have currently the 23rd of May, and it is pretty much the most stable one. We grew it to 50K ad spend, and we had almost the same net profit as gross profit. This is pretty much the reason, because we had all the stock already on Amazon, no extra costs, and this is pretty much it. Yes, we didn't grow the top line so much, but the net profit really went up, which is pretty much the most important for you. Also, when you look closely, the advertising cost exploded against the previous month. But this is connected to the fact that there's less branded search on Amazon. Again, the overall gross profit got a little bit lower because we wanted to get more rankings, right? So in this case, the tag cost went up, still fully in line with what the brand wanted to achieve. We tested more, pushed more to achieve this. Also, in combination with an extra 5% coupon on subscribe and save, we wanted to ensure long-term growth instead of a short-term peak for the profits. The coupon was on top of the 10% that you get with subscribe and save anyway. And the correlation between this is huge, as you can see this. So here we have a screenshot about when the coupon was on and when was it off, and he was on again. So pretty much this is pretty clear. For understanding, this is reorder and this are new subscribe and save orders. Subscribe and save can make a huge part of your business when implemented correctly. Yes, I mean, you're giving 10% of your margin in the first month, but everybody's running right now subscriptions on Meta and on Shopify. So after all that, you have no acquisition cost at all. And when you give 5% on top of that in the first month only, it just makes sense to scale through this because afterwards, you just get passive money. Since we had already all stock on the way to Amazon, we didn't have to create a new shipment, right? That's why we have here pretty much the same. And therefore, also net profit was almost the gross profit. And in this case, we are very confident that we will reach here in 2 to 3 months, 150K net profit per month. We're aiming to make this brand 1.2 million extra in the first year on Amazon. We're talking about profit, not about revenue, right? This is just to be clear. They didn't have to do anything except to send stock to Amazon and plug in their customer support. For a brand who's pushing on Meta, this could be a make or break because you can push harder by having just extra net profit. When you know, then you make just, let's say, 5K net profit a day on Amazon, you can just calculate how much you can spend more with the 5K, because the 5K is typically not 5K more spent, but roughly something like 10 or even sometimes 15 until you get break even on Meta. And they didn't see any decrease in their top line revenue in their store. This is pretty much one of the most important things that people ask me, but hey, will it not cannibalize my sales? Not really. I mean, if you're some kind of fashion, maybe. If you don't have branded search on Amazon, again, not really. It really depends on your situation. Like, I will always look at the metrics, how much branded sales you have, how big the generic market is, and how many copycats you have. If you don't have a lot of copycats and no branded search volume, I would not launch on Amazon. It just doesn't make sense in my opinion. It's just a hard game. And I want to clarify again, like you could say like, yes, but the branded search, whatever, increased. No, it didn't. This is the same keyword that had in January 9,000 searches. And you could argue, yes, but did the branded search increase again? No, it didn't. Let me show you. So this is the same keyword that had in January 9,000 searches. Here's another keyword that is actually from us without the product inside it. So that was 5,000 still. But the one that was number 1 in January got number 4 here. These here, the big numbers, are competitors. So in this case, we can pretty much say like everything that we did is not correlated to branded search. The only relevant keyword, as I said, is the 5,100, which is the brand without the product, which is fine, but it's still not bigger than February or January. So we see here, how much is it? Like 66% decrease between January and April. So all the growth is basically not connected to branded search at all. So this is just to be clear. And I want to talk about what brands are mostly missing. And I think a lot of brands are missing that they think Amazon is so crazy, it's so complicated. Yes, because you have to be more compliant than Meta. You can't say so many things. You have to understand which buyer persona you're targeting. You're not targeting the same on Meta. So on Meta, you target pretty much a lot of unaware people. You have to educate them. That's why we have advertorials. That's why we have VSLs to really get ahead of them. But on Amazon, people are already searching after the problem, sometimes even after the exact product. And based on this, your marketing has to be completely different. Yes, you have to make SEO and the basics right, because otherwise people will not find you. But understanding this is super important, that you just target a completely different buyer persona. On Amazon, you just capture the traffic, and mostly the brand sales are not as big as you believe. You can pretty much track once you launch, before you contract this with first-party data, how much brand there is actually. I mean, you see how our branded search volume is going down and down, and our top line and bottom line are going up and up. Once you launch on Amazon, get the first-party data and check it yourself. And please share this video with somebody who can benefit from this, from a person who wants to launch on Amazon. And if you or the person don't want to do this, just book a call on ecomwizards.agency. I'm more than happy to help you, completely transparent what to do. And if you just want to do it alone, Just watch the other videos and see you in the next one.